Good morning, Dr. Verbruggen.
Good morning. Okay, it is 10 o'clock. Let me begin with prayer, and then we'll get started on this. Father, we are so grateful for your constant love, for the fact that you have opened our eyes to the truth of the gospel. And I just pray, Lord, that we will every day come before you to submit ourselves to your guidance. Your gospel may transform us. May we cling to the cross every moment of our lives, Lord. I pray now that as we open your word, open our hearts to your words. In Jesus' name, amen. A little smaller crowd here, that's fine. So let's get started here with, so we were in chapter 18, verse 11, I believe. And so let's read this. If somebody can read it up to the Atnach, and then somebody after the Atnach.
I can start it.
Thank you.
Va'abraham v'Sarah zikenim ba'in bayamim.
Somebody can read it after the Atnach. Okay, I'll do it. Chadal lichyot l'sara orach kanashim. And so here, if we translate it, let's translate it with the accent in mind. So we have the Zakef Katon here. So we'll start with that, and then we have the Atnach. Then we have another Zakef Katon, and then we go to the end. So the first thing we see, something is being said about Abraham and Sarah. Avraham v'Sarah zekenim. Zekenim, zaken is old. So what really you're saying is that Abraham and Sarah were old. And then the other phrase, which really accentuates the first phrase, is ba'im bayamim. The days have come or were coming, meaning it's an idiom saying they're advanced in years. So the days are coming. Why that is, idioms are sometimes very tricky to figure out. Where did it come from? Are they referring to the days of death or something like that? It is just not clear to us. But then it continues, Chadal lichyot l'Sarai, and so something is being said about Sarai. Literally is, and there ceased to be to Sarai. What ceased to be to Sarai? Then the orach kanashim, the way like the women. So we take it that she is past menopause. That's, I think, what is being stated here. So in a very different way that we would say, but it's made clear here with these phrases. Let's look at ba'im. Ba'im. Can somebody parse that?
So is it from from bo?
It is from bo.
And it looks like a participle.
Yes, the im looks like a noun, right? And a participle is a verbal noun. So when you see im and it's a verb, then it must be a participle. So yeah. So it's a kal participle, active participle, masculine plural absolute. Absolute because a noun can be in the absolute or in the construct. And absolute just means that it stands by itself. It's not supporting or connected with another noun. All right, so that's what is being stated. Now, remember, we had a statement earlier, that in 10, and the Lord said, I will surely return to you at the time of the reviving springtime, and behold, to Sarah will be a son. To Sarah, your wife, there will be a son, and so that is being said, and now we get kind of background information by the narrator. You got to understand this is unusual because they are so old, and she's even postmenopausal. So it's interesting that the narrative felt he needs to clarify this for us to understand better what's going on, because would be like if you have a young couple and you say, hey, you're gonna have a child, and okay, that happens, that's not that surprising. This is surprising, and I think the narrator wants us to get the surprise of this fact, this revelation that God had said to them. All right, let's go to 12. Again, if I can have somebody read the first phrase up to the Atnach, and then somebody after the Atnach.
I can read the first phrase.
Right. Somebody the last one? It's all right if you don't feel like it. Okay, I'll do it. Let's do that.
Okay. V'titzchak Sarah Bakir, is it Bakir Ba?
Yeah, Bakir-bach, yeah.
Bakir Ba.
Lemor, yeah. Then Achare beloti hayata li edna v'adoni zaken. Let's first deal with Vayitzchak. What's this? So when you see the first word in a clause, and you see the vav with the patach, you gotta think verb. You immediately have to think, okay, this is looks like a verb. So what's the root of this verb?
That's Isaac's name, right? So
It's derived from the same root. Yeah. So the root is tzadechet kof. Tzadechet kof. And it's just a regular Vayiktol kal. And we know it's a kal. Well, when you see a chirek underneath the preformative, there are only so many options, right? What can have a chirek? A kal can have a chirek. A nifel can have a chirek. A hitpel can have a chirek. But that's about it. So if I don't see a comet and a doubling the first consonant, I know it's not a nifel. If I don't see an infix tav, I know it's not a hitpel. So the only thing left by elimination is the kal. So, and here then, it is Sarai who is the subject, so it's a third feminine singular. Now, in the form looks exactly the same in the second masculine singular, but the context tells us it's a third feminine singular. And Sarai laughed, Bekirbach, in her midst, inside of her. Kerev is midst. Bekerev in her midst with the third feminine singular suffix. Saying, so she's laughing and saying something within herself. She thinks she can hide this from God by keeping it in her inner thoughts. And of course, she's going to be surprised. And so she says here, after my wearing out, there will be to me pleasure, and my Lord is old, meaning referring to her husband. So here, let's first look at beloti. Beloti, what is that? Beloti. It's a little bit hard, okay? First, why is it hard? It's a verb you haven't really seen. I mean, it's a low frequency verb. Second, it's a third hey verb. And all third hey verbs in the infinitive construct go to a holum or holum tav ending, like Allah, the infinitive construct is alot. And so that is strange too. And then there is a suffix on it. After my wearing out, really, or that's a very wooden translation. After I have been worn out, now there will be to me pleasure. So I will have pleasure. Pleasure, I think what it's referring to is the pleasure of having a child. And she's saying, come on, after this, I'm going to have the joy of childbirth. And then she gives, she recognizes her own state. She's worn out, meaning she's past the time that she can have children. And then she reflects on her husband, and my Lord is old. And so she's saying, two strikes against us. Come on. This is not possible. And so she's really listening in, but questions, how is this going to work? Yeah, when we look at our own circumstances, we often see only obstacles, and we cannot see past that. And we might even pray, but we often pray with kind of unbelief a little bit, in like it's a Hail Mary, if I may use that term. We'll pray, but we don't really expect anything from it, because it's just. And yet we know God is a God of miracles. I mean, that's what, whenever God acts, that's a miracle. He acts he acts daily in our lives. We don't recognize it because we just think that's the way it's supposed to be, or that's the way it's naturally go. But he has his hand on it. It's when we see something surprising happening, that's when we realize, whoa, God is really into this and has his hand on it. All right, let's go to, is there anything left here? Let's go to 13. Any other volunteers?
I can start it.
Okay.
Vayomer Adonai.
Yeah.
El Avraham.
Avraham. Yeah, good. And then it continues. Lama ze tzachaka Sarah lemor ha'af umnam eled v'ani zakanti. So this is going to be interesting. The first phrase is very simple, right? Vayomer Adonai El Avraham, which means, yeah, God said to Abraham. And so now he reveals, and by the revelation, Sarah should have realized, whoa, if he can read my mind, I'm sure he can do other things too. And so he said, and it's interesting that remember, Sarah was somewhere in the opening of a tent listening in. She wasn't really part of the whole scene, because Abram is standing there while they're eating, and he has now, God reveals. So the conversation between the three visitors and Abraham, and Sarah is not really part of it. So they're not calling her out, but they know what she's thinking, and they're addressing that with Abraham. And they say, why? The ze here is kind of supporting. Sometimes you have that the demonstrative pronoun will support the interrogative pronoun. So it doesn't have not why this. No, it's just supporting that interrogative, strengthening it. Why was Sarah laughing, saying, and now we get, we had earlier in the previous verse, we were told what she was thinking. What God is really expressing here is more the resultative, or what her thoughts were all about. I mean, she's saying, I'm worn out, and my Lord is old. Will I now have even joy? And now God is saying that she said, saying, I mean, this is what Sarah said, kind of a conclusion. Will indeed truly will I give birth, but I'm old. So that's really succinctly summarizing what it's not in the same words, but that's really the conclusion that she came with, is truly, I'm going to have a child and I'm old. So by revealing this, God clearly indicates that he's Lord of all. There's not a secret that can be hidden from him. And so it's not surprising for us, as we've been reading from Genesis 1. I just wonder if how much, I mean, we can hear the stories of God acting, but do we sometimes just think of that's a long time ago? Is he still acting this way? Christina, you had a question, or you raise a hand?
Yes, I was curious if the hey in front of off, is that an interrogative, or is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will I indeed truly give birth, but I'm old? And I say but because the vav is not on the verb. And often when I see a vav, a new clause begin, and it's also ani, we didn't need to write ani. We could have just said vezakanti. But by putting this and putting it before the verb, we're really kind of creating a little contrast. I'm giving birth, but I'm old. So that's, I think, how we should read that then. Yeah, that is indeed an interrogative particle. All right, let's go to 14. Yeah.
Okay, Mark here.
Okay. Mark, you want to read the first? Yeah, actually read 14. It's not that long, so.
Okay. Hagi Pale.
Good.
Me Adonai.
Good.
Adonai. Davar. Lam Moad.
Ed.
Yeah, Ed. Ma Shavu.
Ashuv.
Ashu.
Yeah.
Eleka.
Good.
Baet.
Kavet.
Kavet. Yava.
Chaya.
Oh yeah, Hava. Chaya.
No, Chaya. Good.
Chaya. Vu Sharach.
Ulasara.
Ben.
Good. And so it begins here. I mean, we've seen a number of questions. Again, there is a question here marked by that interrogative. And here we have the min. Min, it's just apocryphated because it's attached to the next word. And we really have a comparative. Often a comparative is done with an adjective, but it can also be with a stative verb. And here, davar kind of expresses an undescribed item, a non-defined item. Is a thing too wonderful for God? Is a thing, pale or pala is to be wonderful, and in the Nifal especially. So is a thing too wonderful for God? Yes, Christina, you had a question? Oh, no. Okay. So is a thing too wonderful for God? That's the question. That's the response that God has to Sarah. Sarah, is it really too wonderful? And so now he repeats what he had spoken before about his returning. And so it says, for the appointed time, I shall return to you at the time of reviving, and Sarai will have a son. Sarah will have a son. Literally, and to Sarah a son. And to Sarah will be a son, but that means, she will have a son. She will have a son. So again, he affirms this, that this will happen, this unusual thing, because of her advanced age and Abram's advanced age. God is marking that as his act, and we see this on a regular basis now. That women who were barren, God is blessing them, and it almost seemed that God is doing this, or could God be doing this to announce to the family that now, after the years of barrenness, this woman is with child, because this child that she will bear will have a very important function in the salvation history that God is planning out. And of course, that will be true for Sarah's child. But we see this on a regular basis. Hannah in 1 Samuel, the same thing. Don, you had some other examples?
Well, yes. Let's see. Actually, I wasn't thinking of examples, but I was thinking that, like Sarah, like Hannah, like Elizabeth, that it reminds me of, in an orchestral piece, when there's a break in the rest of a couple of beats, and then the music comes in, and it's an emphasis. It's to heighten the emphasis.
Yeah.
Something special is coming.
Yeah. That's indeed true. In a way, almost the opposite, but not really, is Christ's birth, right? She's a young child, of course you expect it, but the interesting part is that she was a virgin. She had not known a man, and so that's where then we suddenly see, whoa, that's unusual. So often unusual births announce God's movement in salvation history in a dramatic way, and that is what we will see again happen here also. Good point. Let's see.
Do you think there's a relationship with the son of the woman too, with Eve already too, in this passing down of the battle, the cosmic battle that's happening, leading the way? Is there any kind of emphasis there?
Yeah. I mean, that's always in the background, right? I mean, the moment mankind fell, God made a promise. God reached out with grace towards mankind. That although there is punishment, within the punishment there is hope, in that the seed of the woman would defeat the seed of the snake. And of course we have to wait till Genesis 12, where we see now the promise being expressed in a very full way. That it was through the seed of Abram that all the families of the earth will be blessed. And so I think there is we will see it later, later on in this chapter, I think it's verse 18, we will see the reference to that, where the promise is repeated in a way. And I do think, of course, that is, we saw that in Genesis 6, the sons of God and the daughters of men, and how the struggle continues there. I do take that as the divine line, or the godly line and the non-godly line. And so that struggle continued there, and we'll see this continue here. And I think now God is starting to work out his salvation plan, so that the seed of the seed of the woman, the one that will crush the serpent's head, will eventually come. In still very limited ways. We'll have to wait till later in Genesis to see more of this. But the revelation continues all along in the Old Testament to reveal who is the head crusher, right? and we'll have to just keep on reading. But yeah, we have to keep that by immediately bringing this theme in of hope, salvation. We have to keep that in our mind. It's not like things went bad and many, somewhere further down the line, God suddenly reveals. No, at the moment of the fall, God immediately reveals his plan in limited way, but he already showed that this is not the end of it. And I think that's important for us. I mentioned there's a nifel, Yipale, a very nice nifel, Chirek, doubling of the first consonant comets, so no question there. Notice also after the Atnach, when it says, La moed ashuv alecha, and then ka'et chaya. I find it very interesting is that this is a prepositional phrase. Why does that come first? That's not normal. So there is stress. At the appointed time, I will return to you. And then it's almost like a bookend, because that appointed time is mentioned again at the time of reviving, meaning in the springtime. So it kind of, God is saying, I will do this, at the right time. It's when Sarah is with child, it's not like, oh, look at this, it is just chance. No, God planned this, and that is his doing when that will happen. All right, let's
I was thinking also doubly so because of their planned way of making it happen with Ishmael. Yep. And I guess the chapter before he came and said, you're still going to bear a son. And so not only the barrenness, but also, but no, not your plan, my plan.
Yeah. We see this kind of with Abram's life on a regular basis, and we see him grow in his faith. Here he was given wonderful promises in Genesis 12, and immediately after that, he kind of messes up because he goes and lies and thinks he has to protect himself. What did God just say? I'm going to make you a great nation. Of course, they're not going to kill you. Don't come up with your own plan. But yes, it's every time like that. Let's go to 15. Can somebody read 15?
I'll take a stab at it.
Thank you.
Vatkahesh Sarah Lemor lo Sachti ki Yereach Vayomer lo ki Sahacht.
Oh yeah, lo ki Sahacht. You went faster than my eyes went. I was still in the key, and you already.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. No. It's fine. For some reason, I slowed down, and I didn't see that last word. Yes. Let's look at, and this is also a mouthful. V'techachesh. What can you parse this?
No, I cannot.
No. I mean, the you was you all.
Okay. So
You
plural.
all.
Okay, I got
Yeah.
that.
I should have said it clear. So when you parse, always state what you know for sure. And I normally try to start with the root. Could I figure out the root? Yeah. The root is kind of clear. It's kaf, chet, shin. So that's one thing we know. So we got that nailed down. The next thing is can we figure out the binyan? That might be harder. We'll wait with that. What about the verbal form?
Imperfect.
What kind of imperfect? Special imperfect, right?
Yeah.
So when I normally would say, go for the other name. Well, it's not just an imperfect, it's an imperfect with the vav consecutive, but I would prefer you say either preterite or vayiktol. Because then you've analyzed the vav already. Because if you just say imperfect, then you have to say vav consecutive. So that vav is here, that special vav. So at least we can see that. That's an easy analysis too with the vav patach. Okay, that's going to be a vayiktol or preterite or vav consecutive imperfect. Those are three different names for the same thing. So either one of them will do. Then the question, of course, is person, number, gender. Well, we see a taf preformative and no ending. That has to be either
second masculine
singular
or third feminine singular.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Now, of course, we have Sarah here, so we probably should lean towards the third feminine singular, that she is the actant. The only thing left now is the binyan. For me, when I look at this, okay, we have a Shavah preformative under the preformative. Only two verbal forms have that, piel and pual. But we don't have an u class vowel here. So it's not a pual. Now, we had expected a dagesh in the middle consonant, but because of the guttural, we don't have that. Now, some gutturals compensate, and we would see a lengthening of the patach. Others don't, and chet is one of those who doesn't. So it left the original vowel there. So the vowel pattern is good. It's just that we're missing our dagesh. So it's a piel. So here in the piel, this word means to lie or to deceive. And so Sarah lied, saying, Lo tzachakti. What is he saying? I did not laugh. I did not laugh. As if, sometimes we are embarrassed and then we say, no, I didn't. When really we did, so. And why does she do that? And that's often also why we do it, is because she was afraid. She was afraid. Yore'ah. Yore'ah is from yara. Yare, to be afraid. And it is the perfect third feminine singular of that verb. We often do that. We tell a lie because either we're afraid how it will, the fact or the truth will make us look. I can see this. I can so identify with her. She's embarrassed and she quickly lies, and then the reaction is, and he said, meaning God said, no, because you did lie. You did lie. You did laugh. Sorry, you did laugh. Yeah, a quick reaction from God, and that's all that is being said of this little little interaction, kind of curious, right? I mean, I'm sure of all the things that could have been mentioned, part of the history, you know, it's curious that this is part of that. It kind of presents Sarah in all her humanness, and we can so identify with that we have the same unbelief. We will quickly deny something that we have done because we are afraid on how it will look upon us. And so it's such a tender little story, I think, that God in his care put it in there. He could have not left it there, and everything was just, you know, he comes, he says, you're gonna have a child, and it goes on, and you know, it's like, but no, there is this, very human story here, element here, that is very, very nice to read. Okay, let's go to 16. Any other volunteer? Otherwise, I will read it. Okay. I'll read it. Vayakumu misham ha'anashim vayishkifu al panei Sodom ve'Avraham holech imam l'shalacham. And so, and they rose up, Vayakumu. It's not really what we expected. If you didn't have a preterite, it would have been written with a yod, kof, shurek, mem, shurek. But a Vayktol often tries to shorten it a bit because that's a tendency of the Vayktol. It tries to shorten the form. If this was a singular, not a plural, it would have been Vayakom. And then it would have a kametz hatuf, a short vowel. But it's so typical they do that. But it's just a regular kal, third masculine plural preterite. And so, and the men rose up from there, misham, from there. And the men rose up from there. Notice how the narrator at times reveals to us who it is, and at times he just described them as men. And I think he does that on a regular basis to make you realize Abram, I think, is still a little bit in a fog. What is going on with these men? Now, of course, they're saying something. Next year, your wife will have a child. That is unusual for just men to say, but they're still presented as men here. And I mean, we know who one of them is. I don't want to go, there are three men. I don't want to go to the idea it's the Trinity here. Wouldn't want to go there. It just not stated. And I think it would be not wise to read our whole theology in there. You know, we see on a regular basis that the narrator does say it's the Lord who's speaking. And it clarifies to us how this man could say that. I'm not sure how much Abraham realizes as he is standing by these men. And so then here we have Vayashkifu. Can you parse that? Again, state what you know for sure. What's the root? Yeah. Mark, you said it. Shakav. So shin, kof, pe. That's the root. Any idea on the binyan?
It looks like a call to me.
Okay, we'll wait on that. We'll wait on that.
Yeah, perfect.
What is the verbal form?
Cal, imperfect.
Preterite.
It's a preterite. Yeah, it's a preterite. If you say imperfect, you have to say verb consecutive. You cannot leave it out. So better is to just say preterite or vayictol because that describes it perfectly. What's the person, number, gender?
Third person plural.
Yeah,
Plural.
third masculine plural. Now we come back to the binyan. It's not a kal, because a kal would not have a patach there. Not only that, the theme vowel, the vowel between the second and third consonant, is a chirik. That's also not normally part of the kal. Normally it has a holum. So, or a shava, okay? So here, because it's a vayictol, a preterite, it shortened the form again. We had expected here a chirik yod, and it's just a chirik, because it's a hifel. The patach under the preformative is really a clear marker of the hifel. So this is a hifel, and the meaning of this verb is to look down. That's the meaning of the hifel. So, and they looked down upon the surface of Sodom. So they're looking down. If they're looking down somewhere, I take it they're on a little bit more elevated. Remember, Sodom and Gomorrah were in the plain, and the area around the Dead Sea is 1,200 feet below sea level. So it's quite lower, and there are mountains all around. So even if you stand on Mount Scopus near Jerusalem, you can see east, and you can see the Jordan Valley, and it's all the way down. On a clear day, you can see more. There are a lot of questions as to where is Sodom and Gomorrah. The more traditional site of Sodom and Gomorrah is to the south of the Dead Sea. There are some voices that are saying it's to the north of the Dead Sea. I'm not going to argue with that. Now, of course, Abram was a little bit to, and I'm going to make sure I say this right now, to the north of Jerusalem, by the Oaks of Mamre. He might have been at a site where he could also look down to the Dead Sea and might have a better view even of the more southern side of the Dead Sea. The present Dead Sea has evaporated a bit, so it used to be bigger or had more water in it, and there's not enough water coming into it, and so it's getting smaller and smaller. But anyway, and so they're looking down, and Abram was walking with them to Le Shalacham. Let's analyze this. Le Shalacham. I'll tell you, it's a verb. So now, what's the root?
Shalach.
Shalach, yeah, shalach. Shin lamet chet. The moment you say that, then you have to ask, what's the lamet doing there? The first lamet. That is a preposition. Right. Once you have realized that, then your verbal patterns are limited. There are only two verbal forms that can take a preposition. That's an infinitive construct or a participle. And here it is an infinitive construct. I often say, with a lamet preposition, of all the verbal forms with a lamet preposition, 90% are infinitive constructs, because it's often expressing the purpose of something. And so then the function here as a suffix, and the binyan of shalacham is, with a doubling of the middle consonant, is a PL. So shalach in the kal is to send, but in the piel is to send away. So he's walking with them to send them away. So as a good host, he's walking a little distance to really bid them farewell after he had fed them and they had interacted. So he's just still there. And it's important. Why do we need to know this? You know, they rose up and they looked down. It's because they're still thinking about what shall we do with, what shall we reveal to Abraham? Yeah. So let's, Mark, can you mute your, because I
I'm
still,
sorry.
yeah. Okay. Let's go to 17. Yes, Christina.
Could you explain that mem suffix just a little bit more? That was confusing me on
Yeah, the mem suffix is literally, if I would do it translate, for the sending of away of them, or for their sending away. So, but the infinitive construct often has these suffixes that can be either objective suffixes or subjective suffixes. Here it is to send them away. I don't know if that answers you, but so you on an infinitive construct, you can have these suffixes. We actually had one also here. Where is it now? Well, yeah, here. After my wearing out, it's again an infinitive construct with the suffix, first common singular suffix, and so again, it's a subjective suffix. It's after I'm worn out, but literally it's after the wearing out of me, woodenly. But of course, that's kind of a weird way of saying that. So, okay. 17. Any volunteers?
Mark,
Okay, go ahead.
Va Adonai Amar,
Mhm.
Hama Kasa,
Kase.
Kase, Ani, Ma Avraham,
Me Avraham.
yeah, Asher,
Mhm.
Adonai,
No.
or no, Ani,
Good.
Ashe.
Ose.
Oh yeah, the whole one. I'm sorry, Ashe.
Ose. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And so that's the situation before, and now we come to, and the Lord said, and I think this is, and we'll see this in a number of ways, that is kind of an internal deliberation that the Lord is doing. Okay. And the Lord said, the ha here is the interrogative. Will I uncover, or no, sorry, will I hide from Abraham that which I'm doing? Will I hide from Abram? So it's an inner deliberation that is going on with the Lord. But let's parse mukaseh. It's a verb, so that's why I'm doing that. What's the root?
Kasa.
Yeah. When you see a mem, be suspicious of that, and especially if you see a dagesh here, that you can have a dagesh either in the first consonant or in the second consonant, but that would put the mem really outside of your triradical root. So kaf samek he. What's the mem indicating?
It's a participle.
Yeah, it's a participle. What's the binyan then?
It looks like a peel.
It's a peel. Yeah. So the mem with the shava and the doubling of the middle consonant really marks it as a peel participle. We also can tell it's a, with the participle, you always have to say it's active or active or construct. No, not active, absolute or construct. Here it is absolute. So it's will I hide from Abraham, which I'm doing. And ose is also a participle. So he's saying both of these things are expressed with participles. If this was a construct, because of the segel he, it would have been a tsere he ending. So this is sometimes masculine singular nouns, because it's a verbal noun, in the construct don't really have an expressed ending or different ending. Here with this one, it would have had a different ending. It would have had a tsere he, but it is an absolute. So will I hide from Abram that which I'm doing? All right, let's go to 18. If somebody can read that. Okay, that's right. I'll read it.
I'm happy to.
Okay, fine, great.
Va'avraham hayo
Mhm.
Adonai.
No.
No.
Not Adonai.
Yeh.
Yeah. So
Yeh.
it looks very close. If this had been a vav, you were right, but it's not. It's a yod, so it's Yehye.
Yeh. Lagoy.
Mhm.
Gadol. Va'atzum.
Ba'atzum, yeah.
Vaniv raku. Bo.
Vo, yeah.
Kol.
No,
Kol.
vo, yeah. Good.
Kol goye.
Yeah.
Haaretz.
Haaretz. Good. And here, and Abraham, and then we have this construction, Hayo Yihye Lagoy Gadol V'atzum. This is, I mean, Haya is an unusual verb, but Hayo is actually the infinitive absolute. So we have the infinitive absolute of Haya immediately before a finite verb of the same root. And that then gets an adverbial meaning. And Abram will surely be for a great nation and numerous, atzum. So as God is deliberating, he's again affirming that yes, Abram will be great. And that's, of course, reflecting again Genesis 12, 1-3. Not only that, and he says, V'nifrachu bo kol goyeh haaretz, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him or by him. So again, that repetition of the promise. Some translators want to say, and all the nations of the earth will bless themselves by him, and I don't understand really how that works. I really think there is a pushback, even in some evangelical groups, to minimize the messianic references. And by doing this, I just don't understand why they're doing that. But anyway, I disagree with them. They wouldn't read Genesis 3:15 as messianic. They wouldn't read Isaiah 7:14 as messianic and stuff like that. I don't agree with that. Let's look at V'nivrachu. Let's parse this.
Well, so then I have a question. It looks like a nifal, and are they
Yep.
saying that there's a reciprocal meaning to it, or?
No, it's I would say all the nations, they would say that, but I would not try it. It said all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him, So the root is bet resh kaf. That's very clear. You said a nifal, yes. What kind of a nifal? What verbal form, I should ask?
A call?
No.
No, sorry.
We already said nifal, yeah.
Nifal.
So
Perfect. I always get those mixed up.
yeah, it's a perfect. But what's the vav? What kind of vav do we have here?
Consecutive?
Yes, it is. It is. And of course, there is nothing. If you try to translate it as just a vav conjunction, it makes no sense. You know, when you say, yeah, and Abram will surely be for a great nation and numerous, and all the nations of the earth bless themselves in him. That makes no sense. Why would they suddenly have been blessed in him when the promise of a great nation is still in the future? So it's best understood that this vav is a vav consecutive, continuing the verbal force of the imperfect that is found in Yehye. And so all the nations of the earth will bless themselves, will be blessed by him, in him. And so read it as a vav consecutive. Questions? Okay.
Maybe I haven't gotten this far. I'm only beginning Hebrew 2 right now. But I'm not sure I understand. So forgive me, everybody else, if you already know this, but the vav consecutive versus what you just said, where it's bringing the force of the imperfect forward.
Yeah. So if there is a vav consecutive on an imperfect, it's very simple. We're doing a narration. So it's always translated as if it's a perfect in the past tense. But the reversal is also true, that we can have a vav on a perfect. And when we try to translate it, it becomes clear that a regular perfect doesn't fit. It seems to have a future function or an incomplete function. And so we say then, we look at the verbal form before, and that will often determine the verbal force of the perfect with the vav consecutive.
So if it's in the perfect with the vav, if there's an imperfect in the past, it usually pulls that imperfect nature forward. Okay.
It can also pull the imperative forward. So if there was an imperative here, then the perfect can have that imperative function. It pulls it forward with the vav consecutive.
So in the sentence diagramming, that's like the primary verb is the first verb. This is going to follow the same pattern.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, in some of the cases, there is a shift in accents. So in the second masculine singular, normally you would have a katalta. If you have a vav consecutive on it, you would have the katalta. The accent goes backward to give you an indication, oh, we're dealing with a vav consecutive. But that accent shift only happens in three forms. That happen in the second masculine singular, first common singular, and first common plural. That's the only places where we can have that shift, because the accent was on the penultimate, not on the ultimate. So, and we'll repeat this as we go on.
Thank you.
We cannot continue because this is a long verse, and then we would be running out of time. So I'm going to stop here. Any questions, last minute questions? I'm going to mark this so I don't forget that indeed we do this. We start here.
I don't have a question per se, but Jan, I want to really thank you for offering this. This means an awful lot to me, and I'm sure the others.
Yeah, I still have to figure out how to upload these sessions on YouTube. So I've done it before, but I've been kind of busy with things. So I've not been able to do that, but I'm hoping still to upload all the past sessions up to YouTube so that you can go back to it. If you missed one, that you can look at it and see what we've done there. All right. Well, thank you, Mark. And yeah, keep on reading.
Yep.
And we'll just keep having fun. All right.
Just one other thing. When you see my good friend Norm Thiessen, tell hello for me, okay?
Okay, I will do that.
All right. Bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.